My name is Ilima-Lei Macfarlane, and I am from Nu'uanu Valley on the island of Oahu. Chee-hoo! Where's my Nu'uanu at? I actually grew up right next to Kuinama Summer Palace, so the park is like my backyard. If you guys ever go down that hill with the big banyan tree, my house is literally right there next to it. I currently live and reside full-time in San Diego, California. I attended San Diego State back in 2009 was when I first made the move, and I ended up staying there. I get punched in the face for a living. That's what I do. I'm a professional MMA fighter, and I fought under the bright lights in front of sold-out arenas everywhere, and I'm literally locked inside a cage with another person trying to take my head off, basically. But this is so much more nerve-wracking for me. But I'm very honored to be here, and mahalo to Kuhio for having me. My first convention that I attended was last year, back in Hawaii, and it was a super transformative experience for me. And I remember leaving, going back to San Diego, and I remember pretty much being in tears when I was at the airport. And I felt that the kahea had been made for me to come back home. And like Trish said, I'm the baby of 6 kids. I'm the only one that left. My entire family is back home. I finally meet a local boy after dating all these haole boys from California. I meet my beautiful local boy from Kona, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna come back home. We're gonna raise our family back here. But really, I wanted to come home to serve the lahui. And it wasn't until yesterday that I realized, we talked a lot about kulana and kuleana, and I realized yesterday that my kulana is still here in the continent, that I can still serve our lahui up here. And it's temporary. I do plan on returning back home one day, but I just know that right now I have unfulfilled kuleana to our lahui. And so yeah, mahalo to all the speakers and everyone on the panels and even the fellow participants. I actually signed up to attend this convention just as a participant. I was super excited when I saw that they were coming up here. This directly applies to me in my situation and being here in the continent for 15 years going on. So I initially signed up to just attend, and yesterday I heard so many testimonies from Kanaka who are up here. And I remember I actually asked one of my groups, I was like, hey, was there a little tension in the room earlier? And they're like, oh yeah, it's there. And it seemed to me that there was this undertone in this convention. And this morning's panel kind of confirmed it for me, but it does seem that there was this division between us guys and everyone else, between the mainland Hawaiians. And I don't know why I also had this, it's like an internalized sentiment that was mentioned earlier today too, about Hawaiians up here is just different from being raised in Hawaii. There's just something different. And again, it was something that I've internalized. And yesterday I'm listening to testimony from one woman. She's in tears, and she's like, if only I had access to my culture. I'm grasping onto anything I can about my culture. And I realized, so I'm gonna go off on a little tangent, but outside there's like a coffee stand in the lobby. And there's like informative booths or information booths. And so anyway, I'm getting my coffee yesterday, and I noticed that one of the booths, it had like the fake grass skirt around the border, like the cellophane grass skirt. It had, fake flowers posted on it. And the lady that was running the booth, I was like, oh, she had a grass skirt on and, flowers on a headband. And I was just standing there and I looked at her and I was like, oh, what is this booth? And she got really excited and she's like, oh, we're giving away a free trip. And I was like, oh, okay. And how come you chose this decor? And she goes, because all the Hawaiians here. We're trying to appeal to the Hawaiians. And I'm like, okay. And in my head, I'm like, don't do it, Ilima, don't do it. But hello, my cousin is Kehao. Of course I'm gonna do it. So I'm like, okay, well, that's really interesting that you chose this decor because we actually have a workshop here talking about the misrepresentation of our culture and the cultural appropriation and the inauthenticity. And I'm politely saying this, and in my head I was actually thinking about the video of Kuhio speaking about this, like, well, what happens when people type in Hawaiian shirt or aloha shirt? That's what they get. They get this plastic misrepresentation. And so I politely let her know my thoughts, and then I went off to the next workshop. And when I came back outside, she had taken off the skirt and the headband. And so I'm like, okay, she was receptive to that message. But it made me realize that, plenty of times that's all that we have access to up here. So it's not their fault. It's how can we kako'o our lahui who are up here? How can we give them access? How can we provide more for them? And even another testimony, I learned, there's plenty of scholarship out there for Native Hawaiians, but only if they reside in Hawaii. What about our Hawaiians up here? And so just yesterday, talking to everybody and having that discussion this morning of how can we kako'o each other? How do we bridge that gap, that division? And I want to leave you with these thoughts too. And it was actually a sentiment that Auntie Pa'ahana shared. And Auntie, I'm actually a descendant from the Lua'ehu Pauahi line as well. So I love that. Both of my relatives are up here on stage. But she said that the ocean is not what divides us or separates us. It's actually what connects us. Mahalo.